Chapter 1. Hey there, sleepyheads. Tonight we slip back through time to a world where the stars mattered more than streetlights, and a quilt wasn't just for keeping warm. It was your GPS, your code book, and sometimes your only friend. You stand barefoot in the early morning dew, the coolness nipping at your heels as you listen, not to the birdsong, but to the breath of the cotton fields. There's something in the air tonight, a whisper that doesn't belong to the wind. Maybe it's the way old Moses keeps glancing toward the tree line, or how Miss Ellie hums that song just a beat too slow. Whatever it is, you feel it in your ribs, like thunder before the storm. You probably won't survive this, statistically speaking. Let's not sugarcoat it. Slaves caught trying to escape in the 1800s. Punishment was brutal and often permanent. But you're not most people. You're stubborn, clever, and frankly, you're tired of picking cotton until your fingers blister, only to hear Masa say it's still in the night. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Leave a comment with your city and local time, because I'm always curious where in the world we're winding down together. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You've woken up before the rooster again, not because you want to, your bones ache from yesterday's work, but because your dreams won't let you rest. You dream of rivers, of stars that don't blink, of a land where the word master has no meaning and nobody owns your hands. You look over at your mother, still curled on the thin pallet of straw. Her fingers are gnarled from years of chopping cane, yet tonight they rest gently on her chest. She's dreaming too, you just know it. Your little sister murmurs in her sleep, curled up beside a doll made of twine and moss. She has no idea what you're planning. Not yet. If she knew, she'd scream, or worse. She'd ask to come along. And you can't. Not yet. One at a time. That's what Miss Ellie said. One thread before the whole quilt can be finished. Miss Ellie. She's the one who started it, you think. Or maybe it was the idea of her. An old woman with a back bent like a shepherd's crook, and a mouth that spoke riddles you didn't understand until much later. She's been on this plantation for nearly 70 years, long before you were born. She knew your great-grandmother, who was born in chains and died in whispers. And Ellie, well, Ellie sews. That's the first thing they let her do when her hands got too weak for picking. She started making quilts. At first, they were simple, warm, serviceable. Blocks of old denim and burlap stitched with thick, dark thread. But over the years, they changed. Got fancier, more suspicious if you had the right kind of eyes. You remember the first time you noticed it. Ellie held up a quilt and winked. Ain't just something to sleep under, Chele, she said, folding it with trembling fingers. It's a language. You just got to learn how to read. You thought she was joking. That was before you knew that the drunkard's path wasn't just a pretty swirl. It was a direction. That the log cabin wasn't just a house pattern. It told you where to go. That the flying geese weren't birds at all. They were people like you, running north, darting through woods and rivers, always one flap ahead of the hunters. You also didn't know about the rewards. They posted them like posters in town. Wanted, runaway, 5'8", scar under right eye, last seen wearing homespun trousers and a red kerchief. $50 reward, dead or alive. That kind of thing sits heavy in your chest, especially when you realize that you're not worth even a quarter of what Masa's horse is. But that's not what makes your breath catch. What really gets you is that someone will always be willing to collect. Even the ones who smile at you in the kitchen, even the ones who sing the same hymns. Historians still argue whether quilts were truly used systematically on the Underground Railroad, or if that idea was stitched together later as folklore. But down here on the Georgia plantations, you don't need a consensus. You've seen the patterns. You've felt them. You know there's truth tucked inside each fold like a secret note. Tonight, Ellie brings you a new one. You're helping her mend a corner when she pulls out a block you've never seen before. Deep red square, black borders, white strips that zigzag across like a child's maze. This one, she whispers, tells you where to start. Your heart skips. Start, you echo, but she doesn't answer. Just pats your hand and keeps sewing. The air that night is thick and wet, buzzing with mosquitoes and more than one kind of danger. You lie in the dirt behind the barn, quilt spread across your lap, fingers tracing each line like it's a sacred map. And maybe it is. Maybe this is the beginning. Maybe you're the first thread. But something still doesn't add up. Why now? Why you? That question hovers in your head like smoke while you return to work the next morning, eyes low, mouth shut. The overseer yells something. You nod. A whip cracks nearby, probably at Nate again. He talks too much. The sun climbs high and presses its weight on your shoulders. Time drips by in beads of sweat and the endless rustle of cotton being plucked, dropped, plucked, dropped. That evening you help Ellie again, and this time she speaks. "You ever wonder why I sew so slow?" she asks. You glance up from the half-patched quilt. "So they don't make you go back to the field?" She chuckles. "That too. But no, baby. I sew slow so I got time to teach." Teach what, you wonder, but you already know the answer. That night she tells you about the North Star, about moss that grows on the north side of trees, about songs with verses that tell you how to move, like Follow the Drinking Gourd, a song that sounds like it's about spring planting, but really it's a trail marker in disguise. You sing that one when the coast is clear, she says, but only if you mean it. You lie awake that night, staring through the cracks in the wooden ceiling, counting stars and planning routes you've never walked. A few days later, a preacher visits the plantation. He's black tall, with graying hair and a slow, careful voice. Says he's come to deliver a sermon. Nobody pays much attention. Visiting preachers are like rain in spring. Expect it. But he shakes Ellie's hand longer than necessary, presses something into her palm, and just before he leaves, he scratches behind his ear and hums a few bars of a song you recognize. It's the Drinking Gourd. That night, Ellie unfolds a quilt block with a log cabin pattern, deep red square in the center, black and white logs radiating outward. "Start where the fire burns," she murmurs. "That's what the red means. The center house is safe." You stare. That's when it becomes real. You're not just dreaming of escape anymore. You've been given the thread, the pattern, the secret. The first marker in a chain of many. You're still terrified, of course, and you should be. But something inside you shifts. A determination, a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat wrapped in cloth. You whisper a promise into the night. Not "I'll try," not even "I'll run." Just 3 words as simple as a stitch. "I will go." And the wind, like always, whispers back. Chapter 2. You wake to the rustle of branches tapping the window, though there's no wind outside. For a moment you forget where you are, whether you're in the slave quarters or already somewhere farther north. But then you hear the chickens squabbling, the same uneven creak of the barn roof, and the smell of fried corn mush drifting in from the kitchen. You're still here, still on the plantation, still waiting. But not for long. Miss Ellie gives you another block to work on today. It looks simpler than the others, just a big black square with a white border. It's called the bear's paw, she says without looking up. But don't follow no bears. Then she laughs. You don't ask what it means. You've learned by now that understanding comes later, like water soaking into dry ground. You help her suit through the morning, fingers moving slower than usual because your mind is racing too fast. You keep seeing the log cabin pattern, red in the center, safe house. That's your first stop when the time comes. But how will you know where it is? Ellie must sense your confusion. She leans closer, whispers like she's telling a ghost a bedtime story. You won't know by sight, child. You'll know by feeling. People who mean you well, they don't rush. They don't touch first. And they never ask where you're from. You nod, even if it doesn't make sense yet. That night, the quilt is back on your lap. This time, the stitches feel different. You notice one row runs thicker than the others, almost like a trail leading off the side of the fabric. Your fingers trace it automatically, and it gives you a little chill. It's like touching something sacred. Now here's the thing, quilts were common in nearly every slave cabin. Most enslaved people weren't allowed to read, but they could sew. And sewing was subversive. It gave you cover. You could pass a message right under Massa's nose, just not in letters, in patterns, colors, placement, spacing. Historians debate whether the so-called quilt code was as widespread as later stories claim. Some say it's romanticized folklore. Others argue it was localized, more rumor than method. But Ellie believes it, and that's enough for you. Because here's what you do know. Some of these quilt patterns show up again and again along underground railroad routes. Always the same blocks, log cabin, flying geese. The bear's paw appears again 2 days later. Means the trail's gonna be rough. Ellie says, mouth tucked tight like she's clenching secrets between her teeth. Swampy, maybe, or full of critters. Places you gotta follow someone else's prints to stay alive. That makes you squirm. It's one thing to dream about running. Another to imagine your bare feet sinking into cold mud, thorns slicing your calves, dogs howling behind you. You know those dogs. You've seen them unleashed before. You've seen what's left of people they caught. But the quilt feels different, like armor. like instructions for an impossible recipe only you can cook. That night, you bring it outside. The sky is velvet black, and the stars are screaming with clarity. Ellie once told you the Big Dipper points to the North Star, your beacon. So you stand there, quilt wrapped around your shoulders like a cape, and tilt your head until the ladle in the sky pours starlight into your eyes. There, that one, the brightest one, Polaris, always north, always faithful. You whisper it aloud, north. It sounds silly in the dark, like a password you don't quite deserve, but it still feels real. The next day, you practice the stitches. Ellie teaches you how to hide a mistake inside a corner block, how to double back without making it seem obvious. That's how we keep secrets, she says, never in the middle, always off to the side. That same afternoon, a stranger rides past the field. Tall white man, fancy hat, silver-tipped cane. He doesn't stop, but he does look. At you, at Ellie, at the edge of the barn where the drying lines hang low with fabric. You freeze, heart thudding like fists on a door. Ellie doesn't even blink, just hums her song again, soft, steady, like armor made of air. You learn later he's a bounty man, hired by folks 2 towns over to sniff out missing property. He's got a knack for spotting fake free papers and for charming people out of secrets, which means if you run, he'll come. He always does. But something else happens that evening, something quieter. One of the field hands, Josie, slips a folded piece of cloth into your hands when no one's looking. Just something for keeping warm, she says. You wait until dark to unfold it. Another quilt block, one you haven't seen before. Tiny triangles, sharp, purposeful, arranged in a V pattern. You count them, 5, pointing north. It looks like geese flying. Flying geese, you whisper. Ellie confirms it later. That one's the next sign. When you see it again, on a line or on a house, follow where it flies, always north. You're amazed. The whole world feels like it's speaking to you now. Every piece of cloth, every shadow in the moonlight, every hum of a song, they're not just background noise, they're clues. Even the kids' games start sounding like codes. You hear a group chanting, jump back, honey, jump back, and wonder if jump back means double back, or if honey is a name. Maybe nothing means what it seems. That's the danger of paranoia, and also its power. You have to stay sharp. Ellie reminds you, not everyone with a quilt means well. That part sticks with you. Because if the signs can be learned, they can also be faked. You start noticing things, like a quilt hanging too clean, too perfect, in a house that otherwise looks poor, or a square that mimics a log cabin block but has the wrong kind of red center. A trap, Ellie mutters once. Some folks bait with the right symbols, but the wrong spirit. You shiver. There's one night where everything almost falls apart. You get caught lingering near the barn too long, quilt in hand. The overseer yells. You say you're just mending for Ellie, but his eyes narrow. That's so, he sneers, yanking it from your grasp. He turns it over, fingers the edges, looks bored. Ugly, he mutters, and tosses it into the dirt. You don't breathe until he's gone. Then you snatch it back, brushing off grime like it's holy silk. A single stitch has come loose. You fix it under your breath, hands trembling. You don't tell Ellie, she already knows. Next time, she says the next day, hide it in plain sight. Sometimes the best place for secrets is right under their noses. So you do. You start using the quilt for chores, carrying firewood, bundling rags. Nobody thinks twice. You become invisible, wrapped in signals no one else can see. And then one evening it comes. Ellie doesn't say much, just hands you a small satchel and points to the woods. No turning back now, she says, voice steady. You pause. What about? She shakes her head. You go first, one thread at a time, remember? You want to cry or argue or stall, but you can't, because it's happening. You tuck the quilt under your arm, find the North Star, and step into the dark. The bear's paw is in your hand. The flying geese are in your mind. And Ellie? She's sewn the map behind your ribs. Chapter 3. The woods are louder than you expect. Every twig sounds like a shout. Every hoot, rustle, or distant howl makes your spine twitch. You thought nighttime would be your ally, but out here, in the thick of it, the dark feels too alive, too curious. You take slow steps, trying to remember Ellie's words. Don't move like prey. Move like you belong. Easier said than done when the dogs might already be sniffing you out. You've been walking for maybe 2 hours. Time is slippery in the dark. When you stop to check the quilt again, you know the pattern by heart now, but your fingers still run over the stitches like they might change under pressure. The bear's paw tells you to follow tracks. The whose? You kneel by a tree and squint at the ground. Mud, broken leaves, something that might be a hoofprint, or a lie. That's when you see it. A small X carved into a tree, low to the ground. Not natural. Someone made that on purpose. You crouch and examine the bark. Fresh. Maybe a few hours old. Below it, scratched into the dirt, a crude arrow pointing west. You hesitate. Everything you've been told says north, but the arrow says west. Then you remember Ellie's whisper. Sometimes you got to go sideways before you go free. So west it is. You walk till your legs buzz with exhaustion. You pass a fox, startled and red-eyed, and a patch of mushrooms that glow faintly under the moonlight, like tiny ghost lanterns. You make a mental note. Don't eat glowing fungus. Probably not freedom food. Finally, you find a tree stump shaped oddly like a boot heel. That's the mark. You duck behind it, pull your quilt close, and sleep in a ball of nerves and dirt. You wake to footsteps. Fast. Light. Too soft for boots. You peek through a curtain of leaves and see a girl. Maybe 12. Barefoot. Her skin is dusted with freckles, and she wears a tattered blue dress with mismatched sleeves. She's singing. Not a hymn, something else. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. She spins once, then stops and stares directly at you. You freeze. She grins. You're late, she says, like your long-lost cousins who were supposed to meet days ago. She nods toward a grove of trees. Mama said someone might come through last night. That you? You nod slowly. She grabs your hand without asking and leads you through thick brambles until a narrow footpath opens like magic in the underbrush. We don't stay in the house, she says, glancing back. That's too easy to burn. Wait, burn. Before you can ask, she whistles 3 short notes. A woman steps out of the shadows, holding a lamp with a thick blue cloth wrapped around the handle. Your breath catches. Blue cloth was another Quilt code. It meant this house is safe, at least for the night. The woman, tall, stern, and quiet, gestures for you to follow. You're led to a tiny shack behind a grove of cedar trees. Inside, it smells like ginger root and wood ash. There's no furniture, just a dirt floor and one wool blanket rolled into a bundle near the wall. The girl offers you a canteen and some dried apples. You barely manage a thank you before inhaling it all. Then finally, the woman speaks. Her voice is low, like the rumble of storm clouds across the prairie. Quilt, she says. You pull it from your pack. She studies it, nods. Real, she mutters. That's good. Means someone taught you right. She tosses you the blanket. Sleep now. We leave before moonrise. You want to ask 1,000 questions. About the next stop. About her name. About whether anyone followed you. But you do as she says. Because for now, you've reached a square on the map. A log cabin. Safe. Sort of. Historians still debate how many safe houses were organized versus accidental. Some claim there was a full system with codes and signals, while others believe it was far more chaotic, improvised, neighbor to neighbor. But out here, in the real, mud-soaked world, doesn't feel like a system. It feels like faith. And fear. And a lot of guessing. You rest for 6 hours, maybe 7, long enough to dream about your sister, about her learning the quilt patterns next. You don't want her to, but you also do, because everyone deserves an exit, even if the road is made of brambles. When you wake, the girl is gone. But the woman, her mother, presumably, is waiting at the doorway, eyes squinting against the fading stars. She's holding a different quilt now, one you haven't seen before. Wide strips, black and brown, angled like a zigzag. She lets you touch it. Monkey wrench, she says. You nod like you know, but your face betrays you. She sighs. Means it's time to get tools. For the next part, you ask, tools for what? She grins faintly. Not hammers, baby, mine tools. And with that, you're off again. This leg is harder. The trail winds through waterlogged marshland, each step a gamble. Mud sucks at your feet like it wants to keep you, drag you down into the roots and secrets below. Gnats hover in a shimmering haze. Mosquitoes chew your skin like tiny lawyers with vendettas, relentless in their prosecution. The air is thick, wet, green, and buzzing. Your clothes cling to your back, soaked with sweat and fear. At one point, your foot lands inches from a snake coiled in the reeds. A real one, not metaphorical. Its scales glisten like wet coins in moonlight. It lifts its head, flicks a forked tongue in your direction, and slides away without interest. You exhale slow, whisper a thank you to no one in particular, and keep moving. Eventually, after what feels like hours of ghost stepping through muck and shadows, you reach a wide clearing ringed with ancient oaks. Their limbs stretch and twist like dancers frozen mid-prayer. You pause to catch your breath and listen. The quilt pattern, hand-stitched, memorized, prayed over, said to find the tree with 3 branches shaped like a trident. You find 4 that almost qualify. You circle them all, eyes squinting in the low light, tracing each branch with the same care you once used to read letters by candlelight. They could all be the one, or none of them. Your heart drums louder in your chest. This is the worst part, not the fear, but the choosing. After 20 minutes, you pick the one that feels right. Not because of logic, not because of the stars, but because your gut says so. It has something nailed into it, a rusted horseshoe crusted with age. Below it, etched deep into the bark, is a single letter, G. You wait. And wait. Crickets sing. A whippoorwill calls once, then falls silent. Your legs ache. The bugs keep biting. The moon keeps rising. And just when your mind begins to turn on itself, whispering that maybe this is all a fever dream stitched together by your desperate brain, someone appears. A man. Tall, shadow-wrapped. Coat as dark as the spaces between stars. A wide-brimmed hat pulled low, hiding most of his face. He moves like a preacher, slow and smooth, but there's steel in the way he holds himself, like he's got knives in his boots and a sermon in his bones. He stops 10 feet away, doesn't smile, doesn't blink. Who taught you stars? He asks. You answer, voice barely louder than the wind. Ellie. He nods once. She's still humming. You smile, a tight, fragile thing, every night. Then let's go. That's it. That's all it takes. No name, no handshake. Just a turn and a silent gesture, and you follow. You walk together under trees that groan like old houses. His stride is steady, unfazed by roots or muck or ghosts. He doesn't look back to see if you're keeping up. Doesn't have to. At one point, he passes you a satchel, rough canvas, smells like smoke and cedar. Inside, a hunk of hard bread, a compass, and a fresh square of cloth. Flying geese again, but this time they're angled slightly east. Detour, he mutters. Some folks ahead got snatched up. Dog's too hot on the north path right now. Your stomach twists like a wet rag. Snatched up? He nods, jaw tight. Took 2 kids. Boy got away. Girl didn't. You don't ask what happened to her, because you already know. That night you sleep curled in a hollow log, knees tucked to your chest. The damp earth your blanket. No quilt, no comfort, just moss. Just silence and breath and one eye always open. This isn't just a journey. It's war. Quiet war, fought in darkness, carried on backs, hidden in hymns and sewn into quilts with hands that tremble but never stop. A war stitched in secret, but war nonetheless. Chapter 4. The log is damp. Cold clings to your ribs, and something small and alive brushes your ankle in the dark. You don't scream, mostly because you can't afford the breath. Your lungs are conserving every ounce of warmth they have, and your fear is no longer the loud kind. It's quiet now, constant, like a hum between your bones. You're not even sure how long you've been gone anymore. Days blend together when you sleep during moonlight, you move during dusk. Your body aches like it's been chewed up and spit out by the trail, but your feet still move, because the quilt told you to. And you promised Ellie. Tonight's path is new, less like running and more like navigating, which sounds fancy until you realize it means you have to make the decisions. No more hand-holding, no more strangers with compass eyes and mysterious hats leading the way. You're alone again, except for the quilt. It's smaller now, literally. You had to rip it, back when a bramble bush tried to claim it like it was part of the scenery. You kept the half with the patterns that mattered. Flying geese, log cabin, bear's paw, and tonight's newest mystery, the log fence. It looks like a stack of bricks, uneven with alternating black and brown patches. Ellie said it meant caution. Fences ahead, boundaries, maybe even traps. Which means this stretch might be the hardest yet, not because it's wild, but because it's civilized. You're nearing a town. That's both good and bad. Towns mean supplies, shelter, but they also mean watchers. Every porch could hide someone itching to return property. Every smile could be a trap. Still, you move forward. Just before sunrise, you spot it, a small white church. Nestled beside a row of cypress trees, its bell tower cracked and leaning like it's tired of being a building. There's laundry on line behind it. At first, it looks ordinary. Some dresses, a pair of breeches, a red apron. but then your eyes catch a quilt, and your breath catches with it. The log cabin pattern, black logs, red center, the safe house. Your heart thuds against your ribs like it's trying to claw its way out, and suddenly you're sprinting, forgetting every rule about walking steady, about keeping low. You duck behind the shrubs lining the back garden and peer through a crack in the wood slats of the house. Inside, a woman stirs a pot over a small stove. She looks ordinary, older, sharp-cheeked, but when she reaches up to adjust the pot, you catch it. Her sleeve is stitched with a triangle. Flying geese. You exhale slowly, step into the clearing, and knock once on the back door, then twice, soft. The woman opens it without a word, scans you up and down, and nods. "You're early," she says. "I'm hungry," you whisper. She lets you in. The room is smaller than it looked from the outside, cramped, warm. A single table, one chair, a lamp that hisses softly in the corner like it's whispering secrets to the shadows. She offers you cornbread and blackstrap molasses. You eat like it's your last meal, because for all you know, it is. She watches you closely, doesn't speak again until your plate is clean. "You got your quilt?" You nod and show her the folded fabric. She examines the stitching like a scholar, traces a thumb over the edge where you tore it, and frowns. "This won't last the next leg," she says. "You need better instructions." She reaches into a chest by the wall and pulls out another quilt, larger than yours, brighter, with a pattern that hits your chest like a jolt. It's the Bowdy block. You've only heard about it. Ellie said it meant disguise. Next town, the woman says you're going in as someone else. Your eyebrows rise. "You'll take this," she explains, folding the quilt sharply. "Not wear it. Wrap it around your waist, like a skirt. Over your trousers, you'll be a houseboy, or a preacher's helper. Whatever you need to be. Won't they ask?" "They might," she cuts in. "So you don't act like you run in. You act like you belong. You walk with purpose. Not pride, but not fear either. Folks clock fear faster than scent." She teaches you a script. Who you're pretending to be. Where you're coming from. Who sent you. She writes it down on a slip of paper, wraps it in waxcloth, and hides it inside the quilt hem. Before dawn, she leads you to the edge of town, points you toward a road so worn it looks like the land itself gave up on fighting footsteps. "You got 2 days," she says. "Next stop's a mill house with a blue barn door. If the door's open, pass by. If it's shut, knock 3 times. Understand?" You nod, feeling the weight of it all suddenly pile up in your throat. She studies your face. "How old are you anyway?" You pause. 14. She doesn't flinch, just sighs. "Well, God walks with the young." You step into the road. The town is small, but it bristles with watching eyes. You move like she told you, confident but quiet, like you've got a chore to finish. The Bowdy quilt is wrapped snug around your waist. Your own is hidden beneath it, pressed flat against your back under your shirt. You feel it with every step, like a hand on your shoulder. Twice, someone stops you. Once, a white boy your age. "You with Reverend Carter?" You nod. He's expecting you. The boy just shrugs. "Don't be late." He hates that. The second time, it's a patrolman. He squints. "Papers." You freeze. Then, heart hammering, you point to the stitched hem of your quilt, sewn inside. He waves you off, too lazy to check. You breathe again. That night you find the mill house, just like she said. The door is shut. You knock 3 times. A face peeks from the hayloft, an older black man with white beard stubble and coal dark eyes. He throws you a rope ladder. Inside, it smells like grain and sawdust. Warm. "You got a lot of nerve walking through that town," he mutters, handing you a blanket. "You must be the preacher's ghost kid they were whispering about." You grin tiredly. "Guess I'm him now." He shows you a space under the floorboards. A bedroll, a candle stub, a jar of dry peaches. You collapse. Later, as he sews a new patch onto your quilt by firelight, his fingers working slow, methodical, like each stitch is a prayer, he mutters. Historians argue all the time if this stuff was real. You tilt your head, brow furrowed. What stuff? He doesn't glance up, just keeps threading the needle through cloth softened by use and sweat and memory. Quilt codes, patterns, messages stitched into fabric. Some folks say it's all made up after the fact, just stories people told later to feel brave. You watch him work, calloused hands, steady and practiced. Not hurried, not careless. Each motion carries weight, like he's not just sewing fabric, but holding something sacred together. "And you ask quietly." He pauses for the briefest moment, just long enough for silence to settle between you like dust. Then he pulls the thread tight and says, "I say anyone who can't believe folks used what they had probably never needed to." You sit with that a while, because you know what he means. You feel it in your bones, in your blistered feet, your torn up courage, your stitched up hope. When all you've got is your wits, your faith, and a needle, you use them all. You sew maps into blankets. You hide signs in song. You turn a pie on the windowsill into a warning and a star in the sky into a guide. That night you lie awake beneath the floorboards of an old barn, the boards above you creaking as someone paces slow and heavy in the darkness. You don't breathe too loud. Don't shift too much. Just listen. And think. You think of Ellie, her hands moving fast but gentle as she sewed the bowtie into your quilt, humming low to keep the fear away. You think of the bear's paw, and the girl with the freckles who taught you to read it, who sang Swing Low like she was born with the words in her lungs. You think of the bounty hunters always circling like wolves, just out of sight but never out of reach. And in that hush beneath the floor, you make a new promise. You won't just get free. You'll carry it. Every stitch, every step, every whisper passed in cornfields and kitchens, every hand that fed you without asking who you were or why you were running, every hiding place carved out of kindness and risk. You'll remember it all. You'll survive and you'll sew, because someone someday will need the map again. And you'll be ready. Chapter 5. You leave the mill house before sunup. The old man, his name's Lenny, you learned, presses a hard biscuit into your hand and points east. Stay by the creek, he says. Not in it. Too many folks get clever and walk through the water. Dogs still find 'em, just slower. You nod, tucking the biscuit and your ever-thinning quilt under your shirt. The bowtie layer is gone now, folded into your bag. That was yesterday's identity. Today, you're nobody. Not a helper, not a runaway, just someone passing through the woods with a patchy bundle and a story stitched into their ribs. The creek is half mud, half water. Mosquitoes thrum in lazy clouds above it. You walk beside it for hours, eyes scanning trees for signs, broken branches, disturbed bark, the faint X's carved low like signatures of ghosts you'll never meet. Then you see it. Not a tree this time, but a rock. A flat one wide as your back, with two small dots of red chalk near the edge. They look like eyes, but not human eyes, goose eyes. Flying geese. The angle points northeast. You follow, and somewhere between step 50 and 60, the world shifts. Because you hear a sound you haven't heard in over a week. A fiddle. Not close, but not distant either. A bright, skipping sound floating over the trees like someone playing joy just for fun. You almost laugh. It feels absurd. Like music has no business being here, in the middle of your mud-slicked escape. But Ellie once said music was a cover. It draws the ear, masks movement. Some safe houses hosted sings to cloak footsteps in and out of the back door, so maybe this fiddle isn't frivolous. It's strategic. You edge closer. There's a cabin tucked deep in the woods, almost swallowed by vines. No smoke, but someone's clearly home. You count the windows, too. You scan the clothes line, nothing that looks like a code. But then you spot it, pinned beneath a rock on the porch, a patch of fabric with zigzag lines. You've seen this before in Ellie's stash. She called it the tumbling blocks, said it meant the next part of the journey was going to get complicated, confusing directions, twisty paths, decoys. You sure you up for this? You whisper to yourself. You nod. The music stops. A woman answers, pale-skinned, dark apron. Her hair is braided into two thick ropes that hang past her shoulders like twin question marks. You hungry? She asks. You hesitate. I'm looking for. She doesn't let you finish. Everyone's looking for something, she says and steps aside. Inside smells like cardamom and dust. A boy sits near the hearth, cradling a broken fiddle. He stares at you like he already knows your name. You sit slowly, hands in your lap. The woman serves something hot and thick. Stew, maybe. You eat in silence. Then she sets a piece of chalk in front of you. Just enough. Draw what you saw. Your brow furrows. What? Out there, on the trail, what symbols? What marks? You blink. How'd you know? She doesn't answer. You draw. Flying geese. Bear's paw. Log cabin. She nods slowly at each. Then you add tumbling blocks. Her lips tighten. Then you've gone too far west, she mutters. They're tracking near the old orchard. Dogs too. You feel your appetite vanish. Where do I go? She pulls a rolled map from beneath the hearthstone, thick, hand-inked, covered in strange grids and slashes. There's a camp near Point Junction. They move people every 3 nights. If you reach it, you'll get new directions and company. Company. The word almost makes you cry. You haven't walked with anyone in days. But then she says something else, something that knots your stomach. You'll have to go through the blind strip. You've heard of it. Everyone has. It's a patch of woods near the foothills that offers no markers, no symbols, no friendly faces, no signs, just trees and silence. It's called the blind strip because it swallows travelers whole. No directions in, fear out. Why there, you ask? She shrugs. Because it's the only way past the road patrols. You sleep in the loft above her pantry. The boy hands you a threadbare pillow and asks if your quilt is magic. You almost say yes, but instead you whisper, no, just smart. You leave at first light. The boy watches from the steps. He salutes like a soldier. The woman presses something into your hand as you go, another quilt scrap. Use it when you reach the ridge, she says. The edge pattern means scatter. Might come in handy if you're followed. Scatter, you ask? She smirks. Like, go wherever they're not. The woods darken the closer you get to the blind strip. The trees crowd together like they're in on a joke you don't understand. Birds vanish. The air goes still. You wrap your quilt tighter even though it's warm. Not for the weather, but for courage. The first few hours are disorienting. No landmarks, no carvings, just endless green-brown blur. You try to follow the slope of the land, keep the sun angled behind your left shoulder. But it's hard. Too many hills, too much shade. At one point, you think you hear someone falling. You stop, hold your breath. Nothing. But you don't shake the feeling. By dusk, your legs are shot. Your arms feel like sacks of beans. You crouch under a fallen log and eat a handful of dried berries. Then you unfold the new patch the woman gave you. The edge pattern does look like scattering, small black squares in wild directions. You memorize the layout, just in case. Then branches snap behind you. You turn. A shadow moves between 2 trees. Not an animal. Someone's there. You freeze. Then you remember what the woman said, scatter. You sprint left. No path, just instinct. Twigs claw your face. Vines wrap your ankles like curses. You trip, fall, crawl, rise, run again. The quilt flaps behind you like a frantic flag. More footsteps. You grab the quilt, clutch the corner with the scatter squares, and dart right. Down a slope you wouldn't normally choose. You slide, tumble, hit water. A stream, shallow but fast. You lie flat in it, pressing against a fallen branch, letting the current hide your breath. A minute passes, then another. Then silence. Gone. You wait 10 more minutes before you crawl out, soaked, shaking, but alive. You rest under a cedar tree, body buzzing with adrenaline. You don't cry, not yet. Instead you whisper, thank you. To Ellie. To the woman. To the quilt. To the idea that something small and stitched could outrun something big and brutal. And then, because you have to keep moving, you do. One step at a time. The blind strip doesn't stay blind forever. You emerge on the far side just before dawn. And ahead, through the trees, you see it. A flicker of light. A fire. Camp. Company. Chapter 6. You don't run toward the fire. No matter how much your legs beg, no matter how your chest aches for comfort, you've learned too much to move fast when something looks easy. Your instincts whisper what Ellie used to shout. If it's lit, it's watched. And if it's watched, it might be bait. So instead, you crouch behind a ridge and watch. 3 people are near the fire, 2 adults. 1 kid, maybe younger than you, bundled in what looks like a wool cloak, half asleep on someone's shoulder. They speak in low tones, pass a dented kettle between them. One of them laughs, softly, a real sound. Not bait. You take a chance. Careful steps. Quilt tight. You emerge from the brush like a ghost reluctantly joining the living. The older woman sees you first. She doesn't move for the pistol at her hip, just watches, scanning your face like she's flipping through a mental file. You're late, she says. You blink. Wasn't sure I'd get here at all. She gestures toward the fire. Then warm up. Company's scarce, and we don't ask names out loud. You sit beside the flames, the warmth crawling up your shins like forgiveness. The other adult, tall, wiry, with a white streak in his hair, offers you a tin cup of sassafras tea. You drink greedily. Where's your patch? You hesitate, then pull out the quilt. He examines the frayed edge, the scattered code, the bear's paw fading near the hem. He whistles. This old thing's seen some trouble. She sewed it herself, says the woman. You look up, startled. How? Only folks with hand-stitched corners make it through the blind strip, she says. You improvise? That's survival. The boy next to her stirs, opens one eye. He looks at you and in a voice like wind through dry grass says, "Did you have the dream?" You frown. "What dream?" He shrugs. Everyone here had one. About getting out. But not just getting out. Helping. Like we were pulling a rope, not climbing it. You think about Ellie. About the woman with the fiddle. The coated quilt on the preacher's porch. All of them pulling in different directions, but somehow moving the same thing. Maybe the boy's not so wrong. That night, the fire goes out early. Everyone settles into silence like it's a second skin. You rest beside a pile of leaves and rocks that somehow feels softer than any mattress you've ever known. As you drift off, you hear one of the adults whispering prayers, not begging for escape, but giving thanks for reaching here. Not safety, just the next square. The map is never finished. Morning smells like ash and resolve. You're up before the sun. The woman, her name's May, you finally learn, hands you a new patch. Not a full quilt, just a square. It's shaped like a sailboat, tilted slightly. Means you're crossing, she says. Crossing what? The line. You blink. The line? She nods, deadly serious. Canada. The word hits your chest like a hammer wrapped in hope. Tonight, says the man with the white streak, you'll meet the scout. He takes folks through the marshes. After that, you're free. You try not to smile too fast. Instead, you whisper, "What's the catch?" They both glance at the boy. He's staring at the embers. He's not crossing, May says. Too weak. Lungs are bad. Won't make the march. You look from her to the boy, then back. You're leaving him? We don't want to. So don't. May sighs. Then someone else has to carry him. Scout won't slow the group. The fire crackles. You say nothing, but you know what you're going to do. By nightfall, the scout arrives. You don't know his name. Nobody speaks it. He's tall, wrapped in bark-colored cloth. His eyes reflect torchlight like an animal's. We leave in 10, he says. No light, no sound. The group readies quickly. May hugs the boy, kisses his forehead. You step forward. I'll take him. Nobody argues. The boy wraps his arms around your neck like he's done this before. He's light, but not weightless. As you walk, he hums quietly, the same tune you heard that freckled girl sing. Swing low, sweet chariot. The marshes are worse than you imagine. Worse than the stories, worse than the warnings. Every step is a question with no answer. The mud doesn't just grab at your boots. It pulls like it wants to claim you. Water seeps into your soles, cold and full of invisible things. Reeds whip your shins, slicing like they're angry you came this way. And the mosquitoes, God, the mosquitoes, swarm in clouds, relentless and righteous, like vengeful angels sent to test your resolve. You slip, sink. One leg disappears to the knee in muck, and for a moment, just a moment, you think this might be it. You twist, panic starting to rise. Then the boy tugs your ear gently and says, left, like he knows. So you veer left. And somehow the ground firms beneath you again. The path becomes just a little more solid, as if the earth itself is rewarding your fate. You glance back, the others follow in silence. 6 of you now, moving in single file behind the scout. No talking, just breath and will. The occasional splash of a foot. The hush of cattails bending in the breeze. A frog calls somewhere out of sight. Then, just before dawn, the scout stops. Raises a hand. You all freeze like statues in the mist. He points forward. There's a stream ahead, narrow, maybe 15 feet across. The water runs dark and fast, but on the other side, the trees look different. The air feels different, lighter, almost. He turns to face you. That's it, he says, voice quiet, other side's free. No speech, no trumpet, just those 4 words. You lift the boy into your arms. He's burning up now, his breath ragged and shallow, but he's smiling, and you carry him across. The current tugs at your ankles, cold and wild, but you don't stop. Don't look down. You press forward until your foot hits solid ground on the other side, and the boy leans his head against your shoulder. We made it, he whispers. Then he coughs, hard. His whole body shudders, and you nearly drop to your knees. But May is there, rushing forward, taking him from your arms like he's her own blood. The scout gives you a single nod. Then he turns and disappears into the mist. Back the way you came. Gone. You drop onto the grass, breathing like you've never breathed before. The sky above you begins to shift from black to deep blue. You stare up dazed. You're in Canada. You didn't even notice the tears until May touches your shoulder. You did it, she says softly, but you shake your head. We did. She smiles, but it's tired, worn at the edges. She sits beside you, pulling something from her satchel. A small bundle wrapped in cloth. She unfolds it and places it in your lap. A needle, a spool of thread. You blink. What's this for? Her eyes meet yours, calm and certain. You've got more to stitch, she says, because the journey isn't over, not for others. There are still children hiding under hay and wagons, still mothers carrying babies through swamps, still men running through pine forests, barefoot and bleeding, whispering the names of people they've lost and people they still hope to find. And now it's your turn. Your turn to become a square on someone else's map. Chapter 7. You don't remember falling asleep, only that when you wake, the world is quiet in a new way. No night birds, no hounds, just the hush of tall grass swaying in the breeze. Your muscles scream. Your feet are blistered soup, but your chest feels lighter, like it's the first time you've breathed air that wasn't borrowed. Canada. You whisper it like a magic word. Canada. You're here. May is already out, eating something over a small fire. The boy, his name is Jesse, you learned sometime in the blur of marsh and moonlight, is curled under a coarse blanket, his face pale but peaceful. You sit up, quilt still clutched in your hands. It looks worse than ever. Torn, muddy, singed at one edge where an ember landed. But it's still readable, still whole in the ways that matter. You trace the tumbling block square, then the bowdy, then flying geese. Each one is a breadcrumb in the story you barely survived. May sets down a tin cup next to you. Drink, she says. You need to think straight. It's birch bark tea, sharp and earthy. You sip and feel the warmth spread into your chest. Where are we? You ask. She nods toward a tree line, 3 miles past the Street-Claire River, just north of the crossing spot. This patch of land belongs to folks who keep quiet. You don't ask who owns it. Doesn't matter. It's safe for now, and that's enough. Tonight, she adds, we head to the village. Village? She nods. Free-colored town. Buxton. You'll like it. You raise an eyebrow. I just got here. You sure I'm ready to meet a whole town? She grins. You cross 2 states, a swamp, and a line with a boy on your back. You're more ready than most. You leave that night, moving quietly through the woods, your steps echoing differently now, not in fear, but in memory. Every root and stone feels like a nod from the land itself, a confirmation. You made it. When the trees part and you see the first lanterns of Buxton flickering through the mist, your heart catches. There are houses here, not shacks, not lean-tos, real houses, with porches and chimneys and front steps that don't creak under suspicion. People move between them like they're not afraid of being counted or followed. A woman in a long gray dress waves as you pass. A man tips his hat. 2 children skip down a path carrying bread. Jessie perks up from your arms. Are we dreaming? You shake your head, not this time. The scout from before, silent, watchful, meets you at the edge of the village and says, simply, this way. He leads you down a narrow path between 2 buildings, into a room that smells of flour and old wood. There are 10 others already inside. Most are like you, eyes wide, quilts folded over shoulders or tied at the waist. One girl, older than you, has her quilt braided into her hair like a sash. There's a woman at the front of the room, wrinkled, regal, with steel-colored hair wrapped in cloth. Her hands are gnarled but steady. She points at the table. Laid out your stories for me, she says. Let me see what you carry. You place your quilt beside the others. She inspects it like a general inspects battle plans. Her fingers run over your bear's paw square. She stops at the scatter pack. You made this choice yourself. You nod. She squints at you. Who taught you? You swallow. Auntie. Her name's Ellie. The woman smiles faintly. Good name. Means light. You realize she's right. The woman nods. You were trained. Not just taught. There's a difference. Someone else, a boy your age with soot-streaked cheeks, asks, what happens now? The woman replies, now you learn why you ran, and how to help others who haven't yet. The room goes still. Over the next few days, you stay in a boarding house run by a man named Henry, who smells like pipe smoke and lemon oil. You help him stack wood, scrub floors, and fetch supplies. Not because you have to, but because your body still thinks it needs to move or die. Every night you return to the sewing house. That's what it's called, but they don't just stitch fabric. They stitch maps, memories, names, stories. Each survivor gets a square, not to keep but to teach with. One night, the steel-haired woman, Miss Trudy you now know, sets down a new block in front of you. The underground river. It looks like ripples stitched in silver thread. It's the next step, she tells you. We've been building something, a bigger quilt, one that spans the land. So when someone gets caught, someone else remembers, and someone else can guide. Guide who, you ask? She tilts her head, the one still running. You blink. You mean, go back? She nods, calm as stone. You don't have to, she adds, but we need messengers, carriers, people who've seen the path and lived. You look at your quilt, tattered, stitched, dirty, perfect. You say, I'll go. Training begins that week. There's no ceremony, no uniform, just quiet lessons passed from hand to hand like light hidden under a bushel. You learn to stitch, not just by sight, but by feel, with your eyes closed, in the dark. You practice until your fingers know the rhythm without your mind getting in the way. Muscle memory becomes survival. The thread passes through the fabric like a secret being whispered over and over, until it sinks in. You learn to carve symbols into bark with nothing more than a thumbnail. Quick, clean, almost invisible to anyone not looking. You memorize route paths that snake beneath the forest floor and river routes that shimmer under moonlight. You learn which caves offer shelter and which don't, which houses are safe and which are traps. You learn names, so many names, names of people who will help, and the signs they leave behind. A red thread tied to a tree branch, a broken lantern left on the porch, a window shutter swung open to the left instead of the right. You learn to walk like a farmhand, slouched and slow, eyes down. To talk like a preacher's boy, respectful, clean mouthed, always ready with yes sir or no ma'am. You learn how to disappear like smoke in a windstorm, without panic, without sound, just gone. And one day, Miss Trudy hands you a new square, not for you, but for someone you haven't met yet. A traveler, a runner, a child who'll need it as badly as you once did. This square is simpler than the others, just two triangles crossing in opposite directions, stitched in earth brown and rust red. Decision block, Miss Trudy says, tapping the fabric. It tells the traveler they've got a choice up ahead. A split. Risk or wait. You nod, though the meaning runs deeper than the words. You understand it now, that moment when the world tilts, and you have to decide whether to press forward into danger or hold back and pray the night hides you long enough. Your fingers are still clumsy from the cold as you thread the needle. The first few stitches are crooked, hesitant, but you keep going. You don't flinch, don't stop. When it's done, the seams aren't perfect, but they're strong. Miss Trudy runs a hand along the edge of the square and smiles. Her voice is low. You're a piece now. A piece of what? You ask. She turns to the far wall where quilt squares stretch floor to ceiling. Over 100 now, maybe more, stitched together into a massive sheet that ripples like a flag in the draft. She touches them one by one. The bear's paw, log cabin, flying geese, drunkard's path. Each one a signal, a story, a light. A piece of memory, she whispers, of resistance, of map. You press your hand to your own quilt, the one that carried you through rivers and fields and forests. And you feel it. Every stitch, every choice, every lie you had to tell, every story you had to swallow, every time you ran, crawled, bled, and kept going when every part of you wanted to stop. You thought it was just about escape, but it wasn't. It was a blueprint, a compass made of courage and cloth, and now it's yours to give, yours to pass on, because the road is still out there, and someone's going to need the way. Chapter 8. You return south, not all the way, just close enough to feel the heat again, not just from the sun, but from eyes that don't blink, from doors that don't open, from patrols that hum like hornets behind every rustle of the leaves. But now you're no longer just a runaway. You're a messenger, a carrier, a quilt bearer. Your job isn't to run anymore, it's to guide. The mission is clear. There's a family of 3, 2 adults, 1 child, waiting in a fishing village along the Ohio River. They've been on pause for 3 weeks, stuck between safe houses, 1 step from exposure. A former ferryman named Israel was supposed to collect them, but he was caught, publicly, brutally. The sort of story people whisper around fires just before they put them out. Now they need someone new, someone small, quiet, forgettable. You You travel light, bare essentials, some water, a tin of lard bread, a fire starter stone, and your new quilt. It's not your old one anymore, though pieces of it remain, stitched like a backbone into the new. Flying geese, Bowdy, scattered patch, Miss Trudy's underground river. They're all there, sewn into a fresh canvas of mustard and bark brown. And you carry a new square. It's tiny, just 4 inches across, a black diamond on white, the lantern. It means, I've come for you, I know the way. You arrived at the village just before sundown, blending with dock hands and shanty boys. Your feet know how to shuffle now, how to stoop your shoulders just enough, how to look weary and unseen. You pass a church with a broken bell, a signal, Ellie once said. Broken bell means delay, danger near. So you wait. You camp beneath the pylons. Salt air fills your nose. Crabs click their tiny claws like impatient watchmen. At midnight you see it, a flicker, not from the docks, but from the reeds. The lantern waved low and slow. You rise. The family's waiting. They look like they've been waiting their whole lives. The mother's eyes are sunken, her hands trembling as she presses a bundle to her chest. The father, barely 30 but already stooped like a man double his age, steps between you and the baby like a shield. But when he sees the black diamond on your coat, he exhales, like he's been holding that breath since Georgia. You the new scout. You nod. Call me whatever you want, as long as you follow. The baby makes a small sound, half cough, half sob. The mother gently presses her hand over its mouth. Can't we wait until morning? She whispers. No, you point to the marsh trail. We move now. Moon's low, and the water's rising. If we wait, we sink. They don't argue. You leave. The journey is slower this time. You can't sprint. Not with them. The baby is too fragile, the parents too worn. You adjust. Think like a smuggler. Think like a thread. Weave where they'd never look. You use every trick Miss Trudy taught you. Walk in reverse on dry logs, mark trees with resin, carry crushed pine to mask your scent. You even cough twice near the old mill to send a message back. Root moving, carry needed, no blood. The quilt is your compass. Each square a whisper in the dark. At a fork in the trail you pause. The ground is split by 2 paths, one wide and clear, the other thin and root covered. You show them the square with the decision block, 2 triangles crossing in opposite directions. This means we have to choose, you whisper. The open path is faster, but riskier. The narrow one is slower, harder to carry the baby. The father grits his teeth. We'll take the hard way. You nod. You already knew he would. The days blur. You cross rivers with the baby wrapped in oilcloth. You scale an old logging bridge that sways with every breath. You sleep in dry river beds while the wind howls songs you don't recognize. On the 4th night, the mother presses something into your hand, a square. You unfold it. It's the log cabin pattern, black border, red center. You'll need this again, she says. You shake your head. Keep it. You're not done yet. She folds it back into your quilt, stitches it with a piece of her shawl. No, we are done. Because of you. That night you reach the maple grove, a new safe house. The barn door is blue, shut tight. You knock 3 times. It opens. The family disappears inside. You don't follow. Your job was never to stay. You rest for 2 days. Not sleep. Your body still doesn't trust that much. But rest. The kind that comes in silence, in still breath, in the way your shoulders finally stop tensing at every creak of a floorboard or rustle in the trees. You lie still on the cot, watching sunlight drift through the cracks in the walls, and slowly, your body begins to relearn something it forgot. That stillness isn't always danger. That quiet can mean safety too. That the absence of footsteps doesn't always mean someone is coming. And on the 3rd morning, just as dawn turns the sky the color of old ash, you wake to find a small package beside your bed. It wasn't there when you drifted off. Wrapped in muslin, soft and clean. Inside, food, salted meat and half a loaf of dense brown bread. A new water flask, cool to the touch. A handful of dried apples. And beneath it all, folded like a secret at the bottom, a quilt square. You lift it gently, letting the early light catch the thread. It's unfamiliar. A circle stitched in faded navy blue, enclosing a single triangle. Simple, sparse, but it hums with meaning. You carry it to Miss Trudy when you return north. She's in her usual place, needle in hand, eyes sharp as ever. She doesn't speak as you approach, just looks up at the square in your hands, and when she sees it, a slow smile crosses her face. Circle point, she says softly. That's old. Very few still use it. You sit beside her. What's it mean? Her fingers trace the thread like it's a memory, like it's someone's name she hasn't spoken in years. It means she begins, then stops. Her gaze lingers on the shape, the way the thread turns in on itself before pointing out again. It means go back. You blink. I just came back. She nods. And you will again, because now you know the roads. You know the trees that lean towards safety, the fences that hide paths, the songs that carry messages, and there's always someone still waiting to follow them. You look down at your quilt, your companion, your burden, your proof, at the new pieces stitched in since your last journey. The circle point. The baby's log cabin, sewn in sky blue flannel, a mark of innocence carried through chaos. Your first bear's paw, frayed at the edges from the swamp crossing. Each one earned, each one sacred. This isn't a blanket anymore. It's a book, a map, a key, a story written in thread and sweat and faith. A quiet declaration of war. You don't sleep that night. Instead, you sit beneath the stars, back against the barn wall, lantern unlit, and begin quilting in the dark. Your fingers know the way now, one square at a time, slow, sure. With every stitch, you imagine the hands that will touch it next, the eyes that will scan the patterns, hearts pounding with hope. And someday, maybe not soon, but someday, someone will find this quilt, hanging on a line, folded in a field, tucked beneath the floor of a stranger's home. And they'll see it. The bear's paw, the log cabin, the flying geese, the circle point. They'll see their own freedom, hidden in the thread. And they'll run. Chapter 9. You take the long road this time, not because it's safe, but because it's necessary. There's a girl in the cotton mill down near Chattanooga, and she's been sending signals north for 6 months. Her name is Maybelle, 16. Fast hands, good memory, and a humming voice that carries through boiler steam. Someone smuggled her a quilt square, a real one. Flying geese. She hung it in the boarding room window, twisted sideways so it wouldn't be obvious. A crooked triangle pointing home. The message made it to Miss Trudy. Now it's your turn to follow it back. The journey south tastes different than it did months ago. Less panic, more edge. You aren't running, you're seeking. And your quilt, patched and reborn so many times now, is less a comfort than it is a badge. A responsibility. You wear it like a shawl across your back. The outer fabric is dull brown, the kind of shade that blends with moss and dirt. But underneath, it's a rainbow of symbols stitched with the hands of the free and the brave. Your hands, Ellie's, Trudy's, that one with the fiddle. Even the baby's mother, with her red-centered log cabin square, her mark now sewn near your shoulder like a silent chorus. You're carrying them all. Chattanooga isn't welcoming. It never was. The factory smoke makes the sky look like it's always on the verge of coughing. You slip in as a work hand, hands smudged and story rehearsed. You're from Kentucky. Your uncle sent you, looking for mill work, can count cotton faster than a fox can steal eggs. They buy it. You watch. Maybelle is easy to spot. She's the only girl in the place who doesn't flinch when the overseer yells, and she hums, quietly, always. Her tune changes with the days. Swing low, deep river, wade in the water. You time your brakes to hers, get close, learn the pattern of her fingers on the loom. On the third day, she leans over her bin and whispers, "You the lantern?" You nod once. She wipes sweat from her brow and replies, "Took you long enough." You plan in pieces. It's too dangerous to speak openly. Instead, you drop thread scraps in her bin, each color a message. Red for wait, black for danger, blue for soon. She replies by folding cloth corners in her apron. One corner out means yes, two means no. The others don't notice, or pretend not to. Still, Maybelle warns you. There's a tracker near, works for the mill boss. Picks up runaways like socks off the line. You ask how close he's gotten. She frowns. Close enough that my quilt's gone. That stops you cold. He took it? Burned it, she says. Said it was superstition. You inhale slow. You'll need another. You craft it in the attic of the old boarding house, fingers stiff from the cold. You piece together symbols she'll understand. Flying geese, of course, but also bear's paw for the mountains. Scatter block in case of pursuit, and something new, something you've only seen once. It's a circle ringed with blue triangles pointing outward like compass needles. It means rising sun, a direction, a promise. You tuck it under her blanket one morning, folded like a gift. When she finds it, her hands shake. Just a little. You whisper, "We go tomorrow." The escape is brutal. You time it with a thunderstorm, lightning sharp enough to mask flashlights, rain loud enough to blur the dog's howls. The two of you slip through the mill's back exit, duck into an alley, then race through the briars behind the tannery. A man shouts. You don't turn. Maybelle leads the way across a slick creek, slipping once, soaking her quilt. You catch her before she goes under. Her breath rattles. Her hands grip yours like iron. You trust me, you ask. No, she pants. But I've got no better ideas. You laugh. You like her. The mountains are cold this time of year. You wrap the quilt around both of you and you stop. Small fires, smaller meals. At night, she teaches you songs you've never heard. Not the ones from Elliot or Trudy, but worker songs. Dirty, gritty, the kind that smell like sweat and powdered cotton. She sings them like hymns. I'm not going back, she says one night. Not ever. You won't have to. She glances at you. People always say that. Difference is, you reply, I've been where you're going. On the fourth day, you find signs. A broken boot print in wet clay. The edge of a white glove caught in a thorn. Tracker. You switch routes. Head west instead of north. Use the scatter patch. Split your paths. Circle back. Lose him in the fog. Or at least you hope. You don't sleep for 36 hours. But Maybelle does. And when she wakes, the quilt is dry again. You reach the meeting point. An abandoned tavern built right against the river bend. Inside, it smells like mildew and old rum. But someone has left a mark on the door. A chalked X with a small vertical slash beside it. That means soon. You wait 2 hours, then 3. Then the boat arrives. Not a raft, not a ferry, a barge. Bigger than expected, covered, empty. The pilot nods, doesn't speak. Maybelle climbs in first. You hand him the quilt. Get her to Trudy. Tell her she's got fire in her. He nods again. Then he's gone, disappearing into the mist like a dream. You don't ride with her. You never plan to. This isn't your rescue. It's hers. You're already turning back before the barge reaches the far bank. You've still got pockets full of thread. And too many people waiting in the dark, eyes turned toward the trees, wondering if the stars will ever mean freedom again. You walk for hours, don't speak. But the quilt is lighter now, and somewhere ahead, someone else is waiting. Maybe holding a piece of cloth, maybe holding their breath, maybe just holding on. Chapter 10. The road north feels longer this time. You carry the quilt like a promise stitched with a million threads, but your hands ache from the cold and the weight of all those stories. You've learned now that freedom isn't a place. It's a map, a secret language written in scraps of cloth and hope. You don't just follow the patterns, you live them. You stop in a small town on the outskirts of Ohio. It's quieter than you expected. People move slow, careful, as if they're guarding secrets just under the surface. You recognize the shape of the quilts hanging from clotheslines. Bear's paw, tumbling blocks, flying geese. Like silent messages in the wind, you tuck yourself into a small boarding house run by a woman named Sarah. She's sharp-eyed but kind, with a laugh that smells like peppermint and cinnamon. When you show her your quilt, she nods knowingly. You're part of something big, she says, something worth protecting. You believe her. Your rest is brief. The firelight fades, but Miss Trudy's words still burn in your mind. You will go back, and you know she's right. There's no peace in stillness, not really, not when others are still running, still hiding, still bleeding in the dark. Not all the runaways make it. Not all the messengers live to tell the tale. You've heard the stories, whispered late at night like prayers or warnings. Of quilts burned in jail cells, patterns erased like forgotten stars. Of carriers caught with messages in their hems, forced to swallow thread, or worse, silence forever. Of neighbors who smiled in the daylight, offered bread and kind words, only to betray paths when the price was right. Historians still argue whether the quilt code was ever truly organized, or if it grew like the roots of trees, slow, tangled, improvised. But you don't have time for debate. You only know what you've seen, what you've carried, what you've sown. Your next step comes quick. You meet a man named Elijah, a preacher with hands like carved stone and eyes that hold fire but not fear. His voice rumbles when he talks like thunder hiding behind a hymn. His quilt square is a log cabin like many before him, but instead of the usual red or black center, his is stitched with green, deep, hopeful like moss after rain. Elijah's got a network, Sarah whispers. churches, safe houses, farms. He's one of the best guides north of here. Knows the land like it's written on his bones. You nod, the weight of your quilt tugging at your shoulder like a promise. Elijah moves like a shadow that's been taught to pray. His coat is worn, his Bible heavy with loose papers and folded maps. He walks ahead at night, lantern barely lit, and never looks back. You're ready, he says that first evening. But you'll need more than stitches to get through. You'll need to see. That night, under a blanket of stars, he shows you a new symbol, a small crescent moon stitched cradling a tiny 5-pointed star. This means rest here, Elijah says softly. A place to heal before the next step. Don't take it lightly. You never know how far the next stretch will push you. You stitch it slowly into your quilt, hands steady, each pull of the thread like drawing a breath you didn't know you needed. From Elijah, you learn the power of small signs. A leaf pinned to a fence post means safe. A twig bent across a path means danger ahead. A circle drawn in the dirt under a windowsill means meet here at sundown. These are not just messages. They are lifelines. Each one a word in a language the oppressors don't speak. And you realize something deep and unshakable. The quilt isn't just a map. The land itself is a map. Every tree, every bend in the road, every patch of sky between the branches. You just have to learn how to read it. One evening, resting beneath the massive arms of a giant oak, you spot a shape in the sky, a bird, black as pitch, circling slow and low above you. Not the first time you've seen it. It's a crow. Folklore says crows are omens, of death, of endings, of what waits on the other side. But you don't believe that. Not anymore. Maybe this crow is a guide, like the quilts, like Elijah, like May and Ellie and Trudy, like the stitch you just made that someone will one day follow. You watch it circle again and caw softly. And fly north. You take a breath that tastes like pine and promise and follow. The path grows harder. The trees thicken. The nights bite colder. Frost creeps along your sleeves before dawn. Your fingers ache from stitching in the dark. But you don't stop. You can't. You press the quilt close to your cheek as you sleep. A shield, a memory, a map you made. One night, stumbling through frozen underbrush, you come upon a clearing lit by firelight. You freeze at first, then you see them. A group of travelers resting. Young, old, men, women, children. All carrying pieces of quilts stitched in the same silent language. You blink, heart stuttering. This isn't just a stop on the path. It's a gathering. It's a community. They greet you quietly. No celebration, just calm nods, warm food, and outstretched hands. No one asks where you've been. No one asks what you've lost. They already know. A woman named Ruth pulls you aside. Her face is lined with time, her voice like warm wood. Each stitch tells a story, she says, placing her hand over your quilt. But each story needs a listener. You nod, throat tight. You came as a messenger. But now you're part of the story. That night, the community gathers around a low fire, burning soft and steady. Someone brings out a quilt larger than any you've seen. It takes 4 people to hold it up. It's patched from hundreds, maybe thousands of squares. Some faded, some vibrant, all hand-stitched, all earned. They drape it over the fire's glow like a curtain of history. Miss Trudy's voice, clear as water, cuts through the night. Though she's not there, you swear you can hear her. This quilt holds the paths of those who came before and those who will come after. It's a testament, a shield, a promise. You step closer and reach out. The heat of the fire warms the fabric, and you swear you can feel the weight of every journey sewn into it. Every name whispered across miles. Every mile walked in the dark. Every hand that stitched instead of screamed. You look down at your own quilt, worn, faded, frayed at the corners, but alive. The story continues. And now it's your turn to help write the next chapter. Chapter 11. You press forward. The quilt is heavier now, not just with fabric, but with history. You can almost hear the whispers stitched into every scene, the laughter and tears of those who made these paths before you. The mountains rise ahead, dark and foreboding, and you know the hardest part is still to come. At the foot of the Appalachians, the trail narrows to a thin ribbon between cliffs and creeks. The air smells of damp earth and moss, and the sound of rushing water fills your ears. You move cautiously, watching the forest floor for the subtle signs, broken twigs, disturbed leaves, the occasional feather dropped like a secret. Historians still argue whether the quilts were widely understood codes or mainly regional tools used by small groups. What's clear is that each symbol adapted to local knowledge, like a living language shaped by survival. A sudden rustle makes you freeze. You grip the quilt tighter, heart pounding as a figure steps out from behind a tree. It's an old woman, dressed in faded clothes, with eyes sharp as a hawk. "Traveling far," she says, voice gravelly but kind. You nod. She smiles faintly, pulling a quilt square from her shawl. It's the bear's paw, worn and faded. "Follow me," she says, turning toward a hidden path. The path twists and turns, rising steeply. You struggle to keep pace with the old woman, who seems tireless despite her years. She tells you stories as you go, of runaways who used quilts to guide them, of brave souls who risked everything to help others. One tale sticks with you, a group who escaped by hiding in riverboats, guided by a quilt square that mimicked the ripples of the water. You smile, remembering your own river escape. As night falls, you reach a clearing where a small cabin stands. Inside, a fire crackles and a group of travelers wait, young and old, weary but determined. They greet you warmly, sharing food and stories. You realize you found another safe house, part of the vast network that stretches across the country. Before you sleep, you lay your quilt flat. The fire's glow flickers across its surface, casting shadows that dance over the fabric like ghosts of those who came before. You smooth the edges with careful hands, tracing each square as if to remind yourself. You were here. You made it this far. You take out the bear's paw square, the one the old woman gave you with a look in her eyes that held both warning and hope. The edges are frayed, the fabric faded with time, but the pattern is unmistakable. Strength in movement, survival in every clawed footstep. You thread your needle slowly, deliberately, and begin to stitch. The world around you fades. There's only the quilt, the square, the rhythm of the thread pulling through cloth. With every pass of the needle, you feel yourself anchoring something deeper, memory, meaning, a vow you never spoke aloud. When the square is secure, you sit back and breathe. The quilt feels heavier now, not with burden, but with purpose. It's no longer just warmth against the cold. It's a map, a living record, a sacred story unfolding square by square. You lie down beside it, cheek against the earth, and let the quiet voices around the fire lull you to sleep. They murmur like wind through tall grass, gentle, steady, full of things unspoken. Your dreams come soft and slow, filled with stars, with the hush of river water, and with the soft pull of a needle through fabric. In your dream, the quilt stretches out before you like a road. Each square is a step, each color a choice, each thread a tether to the hands that made you brave. Morning comes quietly, with pale gold light spilling across the camp. A robin sings low in the trees, and somewhere far off, the woods crackle with the stirrings of day. You rise. You fold the quilt with practiced hands, careful not to crease the newest square. You sling it over your shoulder. It rests there like armor, soft but sure. And in your chest, something settles. Resolve. The road ahead will be long. It will twist through shadow and silence, and maybe even blood. But you're not afraid. The quilt gives you strength. Each stitch is a promise. Thread connecting you to those who ran before, those who fought, who hid, who stitched by candlelight with trembling hands and steel in their hearts. And those still to come. You look once over your shoulder, then you step into the dawn. And the journey continues. Chapter 12. The morning air bites sharp as you pick your way through the foothills. The quilt's fabric scratches gently against your skin, a constant reminder of the lives intertwined in its patchwork. Every stitch carries a whisper, a memory, a secret message that's saved more than one soul from capture. You remind yourself, this isn't just a blanket, it's a lifeline. As you climb higher, the trees thin and the wind picks up, whipping your hair across your face. You pause on a ridge, looking out over the vast patchwork of valleys and hills beneath you. The sun glints on distant rivers, winding like silver ribbons toward freedom. You think about how many before you have stood here, hearts pounding with fear and hope, clutching quilts like treasure maps guiding them to safety. You follow a particular symbol stitched into the quilt, a drunkard's path, zigzagging diagonally. It's a clever code. Historians still debate whether it represented confusing a tracker or indicating a winding mountain trail. Either way, you zig, zag, and double back, keeping your scent low and your footsteps light. Occasionally, you stop to catch your breath and pull out a tiny patch sewn with red triangles. It's Ellie's handiwork, her way of saying danger without a single word. You smile. She's still with you. The forest around you grows quieter, almost reverent. You pass an old stone wall, overgrown with moss, where a faded quilt square hangs from a rusty nail. It's a lone star, a symbol some say represented the North Star, a guiding light in the darkest nights. You can't help but feel a thrill. It's like the quilt is alive, marking your path even now. Suddenly, the sharp snap of a twig breaks the silence. You freeze, heart hammering. Eyes scan the underbrush. Nothing moves. You remind yourself that danger is part of the journey, not just the obvious threats like slave catchers and trackers, but the elements, exhaustion, and the ever-present risk of betrayal. You take a deep breath and keep moving. Later, you find yourself at a small farmstead nestled in a hidden valley. The owner, a kindly man with a perfect smile, offers you bread and water without questions. His wife brings out a quilt of her own, a beautiful Star of Bethlehem pattern, and you spend a quiet evening trading stories and stitching new squares. Here you learn that the quilt code is more than secret signs. It's a symbol of solidarity, a way to communicate across the vast distances between safe havens. You lay your quilt across your lap as you rest that night, the fire dim, the stars sharp above you. The wind rustles through the trees like the hush of ancestors breathing, watching. The patches you collected gleam in the moonlight, softly, like secrets too powerful to speak aloud. The flying geese angled in their eternal motion. The bear's paw, bold and determined. The drunkard's path, winding and unsteady, like all true journeys. The lone star, stitched in stubborn gold, and others whose meanings you feel more than know. You run your fingers over each shape, feeling the texture of worn fabric, frayed corners, careful stitches. Each one carries a story, a step, a risk. You realize then, in the hush between breaths, that these symbols aren't just survival. They're resistance. Every square is defiance, of silence, of invisibility, of the idea that some lives are meant to remain lost. And you are part of it. A living stitch in a vast, quiet rebellion, woven by those who dared to move forward when everything said stay still. You feel it now, deep in your chest. A warmth spreading outward. Not comfort exactly, but something stronger. Hope. Fierce and unshakable. The kind that doesn't require light to believe in morning. No matter how dark the night, there is always a way forward. You lean back, eyes drifting to the sky. The stars are still there, still guiding, still ancient. Before sleep claims you, your fingers drift to a new patch you added earlier that day, small and neat, stitched in soft gray and deep blue. The crossroads pattern. Two paths intersecting. A moment of choice. A message stitched not for direction, but for intention. You trace its edges with your thumb and whisper to the sky, I choose freedom. Not just for yourself. For everyone still out there in the dark, listening for signs, searching for the next safe step, waiting for a signal that someone came before and someone is waiting ahead. The quilt folds around you like a promise, not soft, but strong, not fragile, but enduring. And tomorrow when the mist rises and the trees shift in the early light, you'll rise with them. You'll keep walking, because this story isn't done, and you are still stitching it forward. Chapter 13. You wake to the soft rustle of leaves and the distant call of a whippoorwill. The quilt, draped over your shoulders, feels worn but warm, a shield against the cool morning breeze. Every morning feels like a fresh start and a quiet reminder. You're still moving, still fighting, still alive. The trail now twists through deeper forests. The scent of pine and damp earth fills your lungs. You know the next leg will be tougher. Steeper climbs, fewer safe houses, more eyes watching. But you press on. The quilt's patches seem to pulse in the early light, like lanterns lighting your path forward. As you navigate the dense woods, you come across an old cabin carved into the hillside. Its roof sags under the weight of moss, but the door bears a quilt square, a lone star, shining bright even in the dim light. You knock softly. An elderly man answers, eyes sharp despite his age. Looking for the river? He asks, voice rough but kind. You nod. He gestures inside. Rest here. Tomorrow I'll show you the way. Inside, the cabin smells of tobacco and wood smoke. The man introduces himself as Joja, a former slave who escaped years ago. His hands tremble slightly as he pulls out a quilt square, carefully preserved. The same drunkard's path you stitched earlier. Used to guide me through these hills, he says. Sometimes you have to zigzag to throw off your pursuers. You share a quiet smile. The quilt code connects you not just across space, but time. Joja tells stories of his journey, the dangers, the kindnesses, the moments when the quilt saved him. He speaks of debates among runaways. Some thought the quilt code was too risky. Others saw it as essential. Historians still argue whether the quilt maps were deliberately designed or evolved spontaneously. But Joja's faith in their power is undeniable. That night, Joja and you sit by the fire, hatching new squares onto your quilt. You add one with a tree of life pattern, a symbol of endurance and growth. He hums a tune, soft and low, a melody that weaves through the crackling flames. You listen, feeling the weight of history settle gently around you. The next morning, Joja leads you to a hidden trail that winds down toward the Ohio River. The quilt wraps tighter around your shoulders. You're close now, he says quietly. Freedom's just across that water. Your heart pounds. You thank Joja, knowing his path continues on a different road. You step forward, eyes fixed on the shimmering river. As you approach the riverbank, the trees thin out, giving way to moonlit reeds and stillness. The air is damp and hushed, as if the world is holding its breath. There, just ahead, you see it. A small boat, worn but steady, tied loosely to a willow branch that sways in the night breeze. It bobs gently on the current like it's been waiting just for you. No lantern, no oars in sight, just the boat and the river. You step closer, every footfall muffled by soft earth and wet grass. You pause, listening, not for danger, but for meaning. A bird calls once in the distance, then silence again. You unloop the knot with practiced hands, then climb in, placing your quilt carefully across your lap. You sit low and steady. The boat shifts beneath your weight, groaning softly like old wood remembering its purpose. The current is swift tonight. Cool water laps against the sides, pulling you gently forward before you even begin to row. You glance back once, just once, toward the hills where the trees guard secrets and the ground still remembers the footsteps of the ones who ran before. The shadows of the past linger there, heavy with memory. But you don't linger long. You face forward. The quilt is folded neatly on your lap, heavier now with meaning than with cloth. You feel it even through the fabric, each patch a voice, each stitch a direction, each square a soul that refused to vanish. It holds the stories, the struggles, the sacrifices stitched in silence and carried across borders, swamps, attics, and fields. And now, it carries yours. You press your hand to it gently, and let the river take you forward. Chapter 14. The river's chill nips at your fingers as the boat drifts silently beneath a sky dusted with stars. Fog curls low across the water like a veil, softening the world to whispers and shadows. You clutch the quilt tighter, its fabric damp but comforting, like a talisman stitched from every story, every risk, every heartbeat of those who dared to believe in something better. Each patch hums with memory. The flying geese always pointing forward. The drunkard's path, reminding you that progress isn't always straight. The bear's paw, a warning and a promise. Tread carefully, but keep going. Water laps gently against the sides of the boat, a rhythm slow and steady, sensing with your pulse. You row by instinct now, arms aching, the wood creaking with every pull. There's no map but the one in your lap. And yet, you've never been clearer on where you're headed. Up ahead, the far shore rises, shadowed trees, low fog, and something more, Ohio. The words spoken in reverent tones, whispered in hymns and behind closed doors. A place dreamed of more than seen, where chains are broken, where breath returns to the lungs like a long-lost hymn. You know this crossing is more than distance. It's a threshold, the line between bondage and the possibility of something else. Freedom. But freedom doesn't come without fear. You know these waters are watched. Slave catchers drift here too, their dogs quiet until they're not. Patrols ride the banks. There are those who'd rather earn a bounty than keep a promise. You row slower now, eyes scanning the dark, quilt draped across your lap like a second skin. You trace the patterns with your fingers, not just symbols anymore, but compass of trust. You remember what may say. Watch for the ones who smile too easily. Some help to help, others help to hunt. The moonlight shifts. The ripple flashes like glass. You pause, ears straining. The forest behind is still, save for the call of an owl, lonely and low. You whisper to the night, keep me safe. And the river, unknowable and ancient, carries you forward. The boat bumps softly against the far shore. You freeze for a breath, then climb out. Your boots sink slightly into the mud. The air is colder here. The silence different. You are standing on free soil, and still, you don't let yourself exhale all the way. Because freedom isn't just crossing a river, it's what comes after. You pull the quilt tighter and follow its silent guidance, a row of triangles like stepping stones, leading toward a shape you spot through the mist. A farmhouse, small and squat, with a lantern flickering like a heartbeat in the window. You approach cautiously. The wind shifts. You smell wood smoke and bread, the warmth of something human. The door opens before you knock. A woman stands there, hair wrapped in a scarf, eyes sharp but kind. She doesn't ask your name. She doesn't need to. She takes one look at the quilt around your shoulders and nods. "Welcome," she says softly. "You're safe here." Inside, the warmth swallows you. There are others, faces like yours, eyes filled with weariness and wonder. Escaped slaves, abolitionists, station masters, some sitting close together, whispering plans. Others tending to children, passing food, sewing more patches. Everywhere, the quiet language of quilts. They share bread, water, and stories of losses, escapes, near captures, of coded songs and backroad crossings, of courage passed from hand to hand like fire in the night. Someone points to a map on the wall, marked with colored pins and scraps of cloth. It's not like the maps in books. It's real, lived, dangerous, beautiful. You listen more than you speak. You learn. And you realize this isn't just a hiding place. It's a hub. A pulse point in the vast, living network they call the Underground Railroad. A tapestry of courage and strategy, threaded with risk, kindness, and fierce hope. They debate routes north, Canada, safe towns, places where black folks can breathe freely and maybe, just maybe, build something lasting. That night, after the others are asleep, you sit by the hearth and pull out your needle and thread. You stitch a new patch onto your quilt. A North Star surrounded by a circle of small triangles, guidance, protection, and light in the dark. Your hands are tired, but your fingers move like they know something your body has yet to catch up to. As you tie off the last knot, you feel the quilt shift in your lap, not in weight, but in meaning. It's no longer just a map of escape. It's a symbol of survival, of community, of something bigger than any one journey. You wrap it around your shoulders, the warmth deeper than the fire behind you. Around you, the room breathes. The stories still hum in the walls. And you know, you're not just running anywhere. You belong. You are part of something vast and vital. Chapter 15. Dawn spills softly across the horizon, painting the sky in gentle hues of pink and gold. You sit wrapped in the quilt, feeling its warmth seep into your bones. The journey has been long and harrowing, but you've made it farther than many dared to dream. The threads beneath your fingertips tell stories of danger, courage, loss, and relentless hope. They hum with the voices of those who stitched before you and those who will follow. The quilt has transformed from a simple piece of fabric into a living map, a coded guide, and a symbol of resilience. It's a testament to the power of community, the ingenuity born of oppression, and the fierce determination to claim freedom. As you prepare to move on, you realize that the path ahead is no longer just about escape. It's about building a future. You stand and fold the quilt carefully, the fabric soft but strong, ready to accompany you on the next leg of your journey. The others around you offer quiet smiles, silent acknowledgments of the bond you now share. You carry the quilt not just as a guide, but as a promise to yourself, to those who helped you, and to those who will one day walk this path after you. Before you leave, an elder hands you a small patch embroidered with a dove carrying an olive branch. "For peace," she says softly. You stitch it onto your quilt with reverence. Stepping out into the morning light, you feel the fresh breeze on your face and the steady beat of your heart. The road north winds before you, unknown and filled with possibility. You pause for a moment, taking in the quiet strength of the quilt on your back. You smile, knowing that freedom is stitched into every step you take. The quilt has done more than guide you. It's carried your story forward, woven into a larger tapestry of courage and hope. And now you walk into the sunrise. Word count, 2,584. Slowly, you let your eyes grow heavy. The quilt rests beside you now, folded neatly, a silent guardian holding the echoes of your journey. Imagine the soft rustle of its fabric, the gentle caress of worn threads, and the whispered stories tucked deep inside each patch. Breathe in the calm, the quiet strength that has carried you this far. Let the warmth of hope and the comfort of courage lull you toward rest. Remember, the path is never truly gone. It lives on in every stitch, every step, every heartbeat. Now close your eyes and drift peacefully into dreams woven with freedom, stitched with love, and wrapped in the softest night. Good night and sweet dreams.